Good evening and welcome to In Depth. In tonight's program, my guest is the Deputy Premier of Nevis. He's also the Minister of Tourism, Health, Culture and Community Affairs in the Nevis administration. When we come back, we'll talk to him about several issues. Stay tuned, don't go there.
You rely on your car to take you both near and far. So when it's time for service, take it to General Auto Repair, a prestige car service for less. Located at 26 Well Road, Colby, a service center with the right knowledge, staff, and equipment to handle all jobs from general servicing to radiator work and auto body repairs, even tire installation, repair, and sales. So come on down to General Auto Repair, the prestige car service for less.
At SXM, we're taking travel and tourism to new heights. Here we boast spacious check-in areas, 10 passport control points, comfortable departure lounges, and an exciting new airport mall. Finally, there's an airport in the Caribbean that takes your travel plans as seriously as you do. Princess Juliana International Airport.
At Nagico, the things that matter to you matter to us. Like knowing you're covered when your house gets flooded, getting your settlements quickly and fairly when a fire hits your home, and making sure your business can keep going even after an accident happens on site. At Nagico, we're about much more than just insurance. We're about the big things and the small things that mean everything.
And welcome back. So welcome to In Depth.
Thank you.
How does the administration of the Nevis Island plans to increase their tourism product? I understand you are the Minister also of Tourism.
Well, I've been the Minister of Tourism in Nevis now for 2 years. We were elected in January of 2013, and the Premier sought to give me responsibility for tourism. It's a role that I have embraced. It's a role that is very important for the people of Nevis. Tourism continues to be a dominant industry here, dominant employer, and it generates a considerable amount of the economic activity that we see, with the knock-on effects, as you would no doubt imagine, for farmers, for fisher folk, for taxi drivers, for everyone else who benefits from the industry. And so we have embraced it. In terms of our approach has been one that says that Nevis is a very special place. In fact, we feel there's no place quite like us. We have a very steep and storied history. Nevis has interacted with and intersected world events in ways that really one would not imagine from an island this small. For example, the first Secretary of the United States Treasury, Alexander Hamilton, a man who founded the American financial system and one of the founding fathers of the United States, was born in Nevis. And he's immortalized in the US $10 bill. And so anytime you spend a $10 bill, you ought to remember the island of Nevis. Lord Horatio Nelson, who was perhaps the most famous naval admiral, British naval admiral, who even now adorns Trafalgar Square in London, was married to a Nevisian woman and spent a lot of time here in Nevis. And so we have, in a very strange way, impacted and intersected with international events and international, much bigger countries, which sort of belies our size. We have always, in my view, punched above our weight as an island. Nevis is small, it is very intimate, it's very exclusive. That's our brand, that's our product. We are more akin to St. Bart's and Anguilla, maybe French Saint-Martin, than we are to other islands, to those that perhaps more mass tourism oriented. And so our product is a very niche product, but what the value is for Nevis is we know who we are. And we're not trying to be anybody else. You know, I spoke to a media group in New York recently, and I started out by saying Nevis is not for everybody. And there was a collective gasp in the audience because they thought, you know, how arrogant that you could say such a thing. But I went on to explain that because of our size, because of the niche that we cater to, because of the people that we seek to attract, we are certainly not for everybody. We can't accommodate everybody. We are a small island, and we think that there's some value in that. And so we are not trying to build major cruise ship piers. We're not trying to get millions of visitors. We're trying to get a quality traveler. As a friend of mine says, Nevis doesn't attract tourists, we attract travelers. And so we're trying to get people who are looking for a particular type of experience to come here and to experience, as we like to say, the Caribbean how it used to be, the authentic Caribbean. Nevis is very natural. You're here, you'll see that it's very green. We are in fact burnishing those green credentials as we speak, because Nevis has the only wind farm in the Eastern Caribbean that is generating electricity into our grid. We have now, that was done under the previous government, but we have continued that thinking. It is one of the few things I think that here doesn't separate us in terms of our policy, because both the previous government and us are committed to green energy and to a greening, if you will, of the island, sustainable development for the island. So the previous government introduced wind energy, and we're now proud to say we have the only wind farm that I'm aware of in Eastern Caribbean putting power into our grid. But we've also just signed this new government a waste to energy agreement, and we expect by the end of this year to have a waste to energy plant which will be coupled with a solar energy plant, which will again add power into our grid, renewable power. But more importantly, from the waste to energy perspective, it will afford us a waste management solution. A lot of people see these islands and they think, oh, nice beaches and all that, but where does your waste go? Where do the plastics and the tires and all of that go? And so that was for us a good solution. And we've added the solar component to it so that they feel that perhaps there might become a time when we run out of waste, so that the solar energy will support that and so ensure that they're putting the required amount of power into the grid and therefore making their money that way. And let me just put it in context that by the end of this year, fully 1/3 of Nevis's power will be supplied by renewables. That's phenomenal anywhere in the world. But Nevis is also sitting on what we're told are large deposits of geothermal energy. Geothermal energy which flows from our volcanic nature and thermal activity within the Earth's crust. We have done the exploration work. This exercise started in 2004. The exploration work has been done, and we're now at a stage where we have signed contracts to do the development, the production of geothermal energy. The company that has won that bid is indicating that they should have a 10 megawatt plant up and running by 2018. Now, if that holds, it will mean that by 2018, Nevis would have weaned itself entirely off fossil fuels. Nevis by 2018, therefore, will be the greenest place on planet Earth, bar none. Now, when you couple that with the product from a tourism perspective that we offer, where we say to people, come here if you want something that's natural, that's green, that's appealing to that discerning traveler, I think you have a very compelling story that Nevis has to tell. Moreover, and I want to talk a bit more about this geothermal energy thrust, because the experts are suggesting that we might have anywhere from 150 to 400 megawatts of available geothermal power. If those numbers hold, it means that once we start producing geothermal energy, we have the potential to supply all of Nevis, all of St. Kitts, which is just 2 miles away, and indeed some of the neighboring islands as well. And that therefore becomes a game changer, not just for Nevis, but for the sub-region, and allows Nevis to become a net exporter of energy, as I like to say, the Norway of the Caribbean. And so there is tremendous potential in this little island that we're trying to harness in terms of tourism and in terms of overall development for the benefit of our people.
When we come back, we'll continue this discussion. Stay tuned, don't go there.
Bob, I can understand why you're parking so carefully. Of course, when you can get 80% discount on your Be Sure car insurance. But that's overdoing it, Bob.
Are you be sure? Be sure.
Yeah, 80%.
Winair, your dependable local airline, continues to serve the communities of St. Martin, Sable, St. Eustatius, St. Kitts, Nevis, St. Barts, Tortola, Guadeloupe, Dominica with safe and dependable air transportation. Our friendly and courteous staff are always willing to assist you with your travel arrangements, be it at our main office on the Airport Road, which is open from Monday through Saturday, or at our counter at the Princess Juliana International Airport, or you can book online at www.fly-winair.com and choose Winair as your carrier. We offer dependable and reliable charter and cargo services. Winair, the national flag carrier of St. Martin with a 100% safety track record. Winair, we take you there safely.
At Nagico, the things that matter to you matter to us. Like your boat when you're at sea and you get away from everything. Your home and the security of your daughter's things. And the car that you've had for too long, but after all these years, you just can't let go. At Nagico, we're about much more than just insurance. We're about the big things and the small things that mean everything.
And welcome back. Minister, you said that the geothermal energy will be ready in a few years. Are there any particular islands you plan to sell this to?
Well, of course, first of all, we need to be able to prove that we have the level of available energy that the science suggests we have. Of course, we are not yet certain that we, in fact, have 150 megawatts of available power. And that's why I use the word if. By 2018, we promised a 10 megawatt plant. And that the idea behind that is to supply all of Nevis. The next phase, as I understand it, would be to supply power to our neighboring island, our sister St. Kitts, which is just 2 miles away. Indeed, we've already done the connectivity studies between St. Kitts and Nevis to take the power, of course, undersea cables to St. Kitts, and that has been done, and I want to thank the Organization of American States, which funded that particular study. The next step, third phase, if you will, dependent again on what the provable power resources turn out to be, would be to supply neighboring islands. Now, if you're asking me specifically which islands, that has not yet been determined, because a lot of that will depend on those connectivity studies. I will tell you that the American government is so interested in our geothermal product that they have in fact commissioned a study to send geothermal energy from Nevis to Puerto Rico. And they have supplied some tremendous support in terms of putting technocrats at our disposal through the United States State Department. The Energy Desk has been very helpful in bringing us to this stage so far. When we took over 2 years ago, we recognized that our government didn't have the expertise in-house. And indeed, geothermal is high science, so to speak. So we reached out, and the United States government responded positively and provided us with expertise that we have since been relying on in terms of taking us forward. So potentially St. Martin, potentially St. Barts, Anguilla, Antigua. I think these are all islands, Saba, Statia, which are close enough that they can be potential recipients. But as I say, that will depend. And so that is our overall sort of macro plan, but there are steps to eventually get there. Our immediate objective is to supply power for the island of Nevis, then St. Kitts, and then we pan out from there to see how many other islands we can help insofar as this clean, green, and cheaper energy. I think that it's truly revolutionary for the region, and for a little island like Nevis to lead that charge, and for us to be saying to the world look at us as a model for sustainable development. I think it's a very compelling narrative.
How much would a project like this cost?
The initial phase of the project, which is a 10 megawatt phase, I think the quotation that we've seen is somewhere between 50 and 60 million US dollars to produce that. And they're discussing various options. They're discussing a modular option, for example, which can ramp up and therefore be able to produce additional power. But those details have not yet been finalized in terms of the actual model. But what we do know is that we'll be looking at that type of range in terms of overall cost. And that, of course, people who know about energy, that's funded with what they would call a power purchase agreement, usually over a long term, 25 or 30 years, and that is how they would make their money back. But we're very, very excited about that. And as I say, going back to tourism, it fits into what we're seeking to do. In Nevis, for example, what we have sought to do is to go in the opposite direction to many in the tourism industry. And people say to us, you know, you're crazy, you should be trying to get as many people to come as possible. And we've said, well, you know, it is vastly preferable to have 100 guests who pay $1,000 a night than to have 1,000 guests who pay $100 a night. And people said, well, it's the same money, and it's not. Because the guest who's paying $1,000 a night is going to eat the best, drink the best, go out to all the restaurants, take in what we have to offer, and that money therefore. And it's interesting, but Nevis, with smaller numbers, earns more per capita from tourism than even neighboring St. Kitts, which has larger numbers. And that, I feel, bears out the point that we're making, that what we measure in Nevis is not the number of arrivals, but the spend. And that for us is very important. And so if you look out in our harbor, you don't see large cruise ships. There's nothing wrong with that. There are countries like St. Martin and others, St. Thomas, St. Kitts, who have large numbers of massive cruise ships. You don't see that here, because the approach of Nevis is to only target the small, high-end cruise ships. And so the largest ship that we've had in recent times is, I think, 640 passengers. However, the demographic of passenger on that ship is exactly the demographic of tourists, or travel, as my friend says, who we're looking for Nevis. And so for us, cruise is not an end in itself. Cruise is merely an entryway, a portal, so that guests come, and we hope that in their few hours on Nevis, they're motivated to come back and become stay-over visitors, because that's where the island makes its money. And so whereas others have spent enormous sums in pursuing the cruise industry, we have adopted a different approach, and we have said cruise ought to complement our land-based tourism, which is where our people really make something out of the tourism industry. And so again, our ethos and our approach has really been different. We have in Nevis, you won't see any fast food chains, because we have a policy that we won't allow it. You see things like monkey crossing. I don't think there's anywhere else in the world you'll see a road sign which says, traffic sign which says monkey crossing. You know, we are quirky in a way, but we feel that these are some of the attributes that make us unique and very special. And Nevis has a very high rate of return guests. So clearly whatever we're doing, people like, and they're coming back. And this season, I'm hopeful that we'll have one of the best seasons we've ever had, because my reports preliminarily from the hotels are that everybody's full, everybody's having a rollicking season, and that for us is very important. Our taxi drivers were the hardest demographic to please, are actually smiling when they see me, so that's a good sign.
When we come back, we'll continue this discussion. Stay tuned, don't go away.
At Nagico, the things that matter to you matter to us. Like knowing you're covered when your house gets flooded, getting your settlements quickly and fairly when a fire hits your home, and making sure your business can keep going even after an accident happens on site. At Nagico, we're about much more than just insurance. We're about the big things and the small things that mean everything.
We're not just another Caribbean airport. We're an international gateway.
Designed with you, the traveler, in mind.
SXM provides a state-of-the-art international travel experience where ease and convenience is second only to safety and efficiency. At SXM, we're taking travel and tourism to new heights. Here we boast spacious check-in areas, 10 passport control points, comfortable departure lounges, and an exciting new airport mall. Finally, there's an airport in the Caribbean that takes your travel plans as seriously as you do. Princess Juliana International Airport.
It's a wireless system. Cable WTN. Go digital WTN. With local TV on Channel 10. Call and make a date. 542-5898. Down by overseas building, Ruby and staff waiting. 48 channel, fasting with plenty more coming. News and sports from all over. Novella, Creole and Patois. Local thing is priority soon. Pavement and Taki-Taki. TV Carib on Channel 10. We'll always be your friend. Check out the scene, we have the best rate. 542-5898. Hey man, look, babies jumping up in the crib, listening and watching TV Carib. What? You're making joke.
Hurry up, man. Get off the road, man. Come on.
Ahora avanza.
Move it.
Y entonces.
Let's go.
Y entonces.
Get off the road.
What's happening? What happening?
At Nagico, the things that matter to you matter to us. Like your boat when you're at sea and you get away from everything. Your home and the security of your daughter's things. And the car that you've had for too long, but after all these years, you just can't let go. At Nagico, we're about much more than just insurance. We're about the big things and the small things that mean everything.
And welcome back, and if you've just joined us, you're watching In Depth, and my guest is the Deputy Premier for Nevis, Mr. Mark Brantley. So we were talking about the tourism product that you have here. And I've seen that, actually I visited one of the local restaurants and was very pleased with what we had today. Is this part of the trend of your tourism industry on Nevis particularly?
In terms of restaurants?
In terms of restaurants.
Yeah. Well, what we try to do is to try to promote excellence in all aspects of Nevis and its tourism. Indeed, this very property where we are, we've introduced the Hospitality Assured program quite recently. And 3 properties in Nevis are now Hospitality Assured. This is a Caribbean Tourism Organization sponsored program, which sort of gives a stamp of approval for service. And that this is a property that has passed the test, so to speak. And Nevis has 3. There are only 3 in the country. Indeed, I'm told that in the entire Caribbean, there are only about 60 or so Hospitality Assured programs, and Nevis has 3. So you put that in context. Quality in service and the standards are very important to us. And so I don't know which local restaurant you went to, but I think all of them are very good. And Nevis has, and I always say, not as much talked about, but ought to be talked about more, an incredible restaurant and food scene. We have some incredible restaurants on the island. Incredible wine cellars exist on Nevis. Incredible dining, first-rate haute cuisine, if you will, that exists here. And you can go out into the island here, and whether it's at the local hotels, at the Montpellier, for example, you can dine in a 300-year-old mill. The food, the quality of the food is incredible. At Coconut Grove, which is just a stone's throw away from here, they're probably one of the best wine cellars in the Caribbean. So the reality is that there is that aspect to Nevis as well. So under this sort of sleepy, quiet exterior, there is a tremendous level of quality, service, and the type of guests that we tend to get that come to the island appreciate that. They appreciate that it is unpretentious, but at the same time it has all of the luxuries that you can imagine. Just imagine an island such as ours with a professional golf course, spas, water sports, you name it, horseback riding, nature hikes and trails, a mountain that towers in the middle of the island that you can hike up if you're ambitious enough to do that, and an incredible restaurant scene. We are consistently ranked among some of the best hotels for families. And so the reality is, I think that people should definitely come to Nevis and come sample what we have, and we're very proud of it. We're very, very proud of it. And I went from where I started, the history, an incredible, incredible history here, going back hundreds and hundreds of years, which we've done quite a bit to try and preserve. And so whether it's going to see the old sugar ruins or the old plantations, indeed Nevis is unique because we have a collection of plantation inns which are all built in old sugar plantations, which now provide a tremendous luxury experience in a very intimate setting. Most of these inns are 15, 19 rooms, but the quality is incredible and the guest list is incredible. Princess Diana, for example, when she still walked amongst us, holidayed at Montpellier, Oprah Winfrey, you name it. You go down a who's who in terms of a list of celebrities, and they've been here to Nevis, and they come back because I think we have something uniquely special.
Finally, what is your vision for the development of the film industry, since there's an international filmmaker who has indicated they would like to produce a number of films on this island?
Well, it goes back to our discussion about sort of the economy and how we seek to develop the economy. Part of that, of course, is to diversify. And Mr. Rudy Langley, who's an internationally renowned film producer, I think he did the film The Hurricane. And he is a Kittitian, and so is very committed to his home country of St. Kitts-Nevis. And he came some time ago and we spoke, and I think that intuitively I understood that this was something that would be, again, transformative for our country if we could develop that film industry, because again, it's not being done anywhere else. And he has the necessary expertise, he has the connections, he has the linkages, and so it is our desire to partner with him to create that. And one of the early films that he wants to do is to look at the early life of Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, one of the founders of the United States of America, who was born right here in Nevis. And so that we feel will be epic. You may be aware that Hamilton the play is now getting rave reviews in New York and is about to go on Broadway. It was being done off Broadway. And so we feel that the film on Hamilton's early life, because the writers of the play in New York omitted the most important part of Hamilton's life. They omitted to say he was born in Nevis and grew up in Nevis for some part of it. So they said he was born on a Caribbean island, which we'll talk to them and see if we can get that change. But Rudy Langley wants to focus on the early life of Hamilton in Nevis and how that shaped his life. Hamilton, for example, unlike other founding fathers, never owned slaves. He was opposed to slavery. We feel that that might be because where he was born in Nevis was next to the slave market. And so he might have observed the horrors of slavery up close as a young person, and that might have impacted his philosophy going forward. So there are all these sort of nuances, but the possibility of the film industry is one that we are really, really happy about, and we hope to support in every way Mr. Langley in realizing this dream, because not only are we talking about films and that industry, we're talking about young people now here being trained to do all the things that are necessary for films. And he's talking about coming with a production that might employ 300 people, bringing in international stars and artists to film here. So we feel that it can be done, as it has been done in other places like Wellington, New Zealand. So we feel that it's something that can be done, and why not film in the most impressive, most beautiful country in the world.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And that's In Depth for tonight. Please join me again next week as we take an in-depth look at another issue. Do have a pleasant night.